y'all, welcome back to my channel. One of my favorite ways to save money is to avoid going out to eat. But on those days where we're very busy or we're very tired or I don't feel like cooking, it's really hard to avoid doing that. So today I'm going to be showing you some of my favorite freezer meals and some new recipes too, so that way we have quick and nutritious meals that are ready to go either in the oven, the Instant Pot, the slow cooker, or the microwave. So I've got breakfast and dinner options planned, so let's get started. First thing I want to mention is I did not get all of these meals done in one day. This took me 4 hours over the course of 3 days because I am a busy mom and I do go back and forth taking the kids here and there and all kinds of appointments and things like that. So if you have 4 hours in a day, you can get this all done. If not, don't worry, you can do this in parts, and I'm going to mention how I do that as well. So the first thing I did was shred my cheese. I prefer to shred it myself because it melts better. And then next I threw together these chicken pepper jack taquitos because I know that I can make them in just a couple minutes. And I started some rice in the meantime too, because that's going to be part of prepping for other meals I'm putting together later on. So I can just chill that rice and it'll be in the fridge. So first I'm going to add my softened cream cheese and 3 bags, which is about 3 cups of pre-cooked chicken. It's either from a rotisserie chicken or maybe I cooked it prior. I can't remember, but it was in the freezer. Then I poured an entire bag of pepper jack cheese, which was 12 ounces, I believe, from Aldi. So it's about 3 cups of cheese and a cup of salsa, some lime juice, onion powder, garlic powder, chili powder, and cumin. And you can add any seasonings that you like or use any cheese that you like for this. That's the beauty of this recipe. And this is one of my all-time favorites. I am always going to make this in my freezer meal prep. And of course, I'm always using a bowl that's a little bit too small. That's just the nature of how I prep. I don't know. And then these tortillas are from Aldi and they are incredible. They remind me of my favorite Romero's brand, but I believe they were about half the price. So I love that. So I'm just going to take maybe about a 1/4 cup or so because I'm using these soft taco size tortillas. That's the size that I like. And then I just fill them till my heart's content and then roll them up. I know they're not taquitos because I'm using flour tortillas, but you can use corn tortillas and make smaller taquitos here. I think they might be called flautas, but in any case, they are delicious. And I just roll them on up and put them straight into a bag. You can use a reusable bag. You can put them in a glass Pyrex or something like that. Whatever method you want to do to put these in the freezer, that's fine. I just like to use these bags because it is a little bit easier, and I don't use a ton of these bags throughout, but I do use them for my freezer meal prep. And of course, you always want to label and date. Usually these last up to 3 months, and then that's when the quality starts to go down after that. So you can still eat them, but the quality won't be as good. And then I just make sure I put the directions, 425 degrees for 17 to 22 minutes on these. Next, I'm cooking a few chicken breasts in the Instant Pot. You can do this in the slow cooker or the oven, whatever you like. And if you didn't have already cooked chicken in the freezer or rotisserie chicken on hand, add more chicken if you're going to be prepping it for all the recipes. I just like to add salt, pepper, garlic powder, and paprika, and then cook this on regular pressure for 15 minutes and natural release for 10 minutes. Then I'll shred it and put it in the fridge. Next, I'm trying a new dump and go recipe. This is new to me. I saw a few similar recipes and decided to try it myself. Just put a few chicken breasts in a bag, then added some water, but you can use some chicken stock if you like. Then some salt, dried basil, a little bit of lemon zest, and some white wine, and then some unsalted butter. So it's definitely a very basic recipe. And after trying this, after we froze it and then had it as a freezer meal the following week, I would say that chicken thighs would be much better just because the flavor wasn't quite there for this one. And maybe I just didn't add enough seasoning, so you can kind of play around with it. But it is a really easy dump and go recipe. I would probably just do it in the Instant Pot and use chicken thighs next time instead of doing a slow cooker recipe. I cooked it for 4 hours on low and it did end up being a little overcooked, which does happen really easily with chicken breasts. So thighs would be amazing with this, and just don't be shy with the seasonings, and I think it would be perfect. Next is another new recipe to me. I'm making a sweet and sticky drumstick recipe. I picked up some drumsticks. If you saw it in the haul, you know that I kind of asked for a few suggestions, but I wanted something that the kids would really like, and I remember really liking sweet chicken when I was a kid. So in a measuring cup, I added 1/2 cup of balsamic vinegar, 1/2 cup of honey, 1/2 cup of brown sugar, a 1/4 cup of low sodium soy sauce, and a teaspoon of garlic powder, and mix that on up. You could use fresh garlic if you prefer. I just had a little bit less time this time, so I just did the dried. Then I labeled my bag, and I wanted to actually freeze it like this, but then I remembered that vinegar and raw chicken is not a good combination for long periods of time. Vinegar is great for marinated for chicken because it does actually tenderize the chicken. However, if it's left in the vinegar too long, it actually changes the texture texture of the chicken and makes it undesirable. So I decided to go ahead and just marinate it for 2 hours, and then I cooked it in the oven and then proceeded to let it cool and then turned it into a freezer meal after that. So if I used a different marinade without vinegar, I could have just froze it raw. So just keep that in mind. You could just do like a barbecue sauce or something, but we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So now my chicken is done in the Instant Pot. I'm just going to pull it out, and then I'm going to shred it, and I'm going to set it aside for a recipe I'm putting together here in just a little bit towards the end of my prep session here. And don't forget to make sure that your chicken temps at 165 degrees Fahrenheit, just to make sure it's nice and cooked through. If not, you can put it back in the Instant Pot for a couple of minutes. And make sure you save all of the liquid there from the Instant Pot. That adds a lot of flavor to soups or to rice, however you want to use it. It's basically a chicken stock. And the rice is ready too, and I'm going to set that aside. In the meantime, I'm going to line a baking sheet with foil and go ahead and cook that chicken, because it has been marinating for 2 hours at this point, because I went somewhere and then came back. So I'm just going to take the chicken drumsticks, put those on the baking sheet, and bake that for about 30 minutes until they're nice and cooked through at 425 degrees. And then I'll pour that sauce into a pot, and I'm going to go ahead and let that simmer and cook through about 10 to 15 minutes till it's a little bit thicker. And in the meantime, while everything is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and assemble the other freezer meal here that I'm using the rice and the chicken for. This is Southwestern chicken and rice casserole. I'm going to add the rice to 2 separate containers, and then add some black beans and corn and that cooked chicken, and some cumin is great in this, but you can add any seasonings plus some salsa, of course. The more salsa, the better in this. And then mix it on up, and you can mix it in a mixing bowl first and then put it in here. I just find this a little bit easier to separate things a little bit more evenly. That's totally up to you. And again, you can use Pyrex dishes or any kind of container that you like to use freezer meals for. Then I'll top that with some cheese, and then I'm going to go ahead and wrap this in wax paper and then some foil. That's how I like to wrap all of my freezer meals that go in containers like this, to make sure there's no freezer burn. So I'm just going to make sure that the wax covers the entire container, and do the same with the foil. And that just really helps keep everything nice and fresh for longer. And again, I'm going to label this on the top, and then I will freeze it up to 3 months. And just make sure you put the directions on there too. It helps a lot later. Now the chicken that was cooking in the oven is fully cooked through, and I can pull that out, let it cool a bit, and then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator overnight. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to go ahead and assemble everything, just because I ran out of time on this particular day. But the next morning, I pulled that out, labeled my bag, so that way I had all the instructions and everything. Then I pulled my chicken and the sauce out of the refrigerator and placed the drumsticks in the bag. And with the sauce, I'm actually not going to be adding it directly to the chicken because of the way I'm cooking it later. I'm going to add it to a separate bag, and I place the bag in a cup to help keep things steady while I pour it in there. Then I'm going to get all of the air out of the bag, seal it, and I'll put that bag directly in with the chicken so the meal is all together still. But when I'm cooking this, I'm actually going to take that sauce out and then cook the chicken. And towards the end of the cooking process, I'll add all of that sauce on top and cook it for an additional couple minutes. So that's why I did it that way. Now, this evening, we actually went ahead and had one of the Southwestern chicken and rice casseroles. I always serve this with a little bit of chips, some avocado, Greek yogurt, or sour cream, and hot sauce. It's one of my favorites. I hope you try this one if you try any of them from this video. So after putting all of that chicken in the bag there and getting that one all set up, I'm going to go ahead and start on some of my breakfast prep. This one is my go-to every single month, just because my kids really love pancakes and waffles, and I love this mix you can get it from Walmart or Costco, and it costs like $8 or $9 or so, and it just lasts for months. So it has a recipe on the back for the waffle mix and for the pancakes. So it's all there for you on the bag. You can use any kind that you like though here, or I have a really yummy Belgian waffle recipe that sometimes I use if I don't have the mix on hand. But I'm just going to go ahead and make the pancakes for breakfast while the kids are getting ready for school, and I'm just going to make extra. So this one really doesn't take any extra time at all because I'm already doing this. I already have everything out because I'm making breakfast before school. So I'm just going to make a bunch of pancakes and a bunch of waffles. And sometimes I get a little bit more fun with the pancakes too, adding chocolate chips or sprinkles. So the sky's the limit for this. Then I just let them cool a bit, and then I'll put them in a reusable bag in this case and put them in the freezer. They're great to just grab and put in the microwave, toaster oven, or even maybe the air fryer if that's what you'd like to do. But just a really easy, quick breakfast. And I just love this because you can really add anything. Sometimes to these waffles, I'll add some cottage cheese and some sliced almonds and a little bit of maple syrup. Oh my goodness, so, so good. Or maybe some fresh blueberries. Just a lot of ways to zhuzh this one up. So that's why I'm always making this one. Every single time I make this for breakfast, I just make extra. Next, I'm going to be doing some of the prep work for the rest of the breakfast and some of the dinner entrees as well. So first, I'm going to go ahead and brown these two types of sausage. One is a breakfast sausage and the other is an Italian sausage. So I'm just going to go ahead and brown those until they're all the way cooked through. And in the meantime, I'm going to start on slicing my veggies. And first, I have to make a plan and make sure that I have all the right amount of veggies. I highly recommend writing things down in a notebook and just keeping track of what kind of recipes you have, so that way you know exactly how many bell peppers or onions or carrots or celery to cut, and just do it all at once while you have the knife and the cutting board out. That's one way that I make this a super easy breezy, meal prep situation, is I get everything all prepped all at once and just set it in the fridge until I'm ready to put everything together. So I'm going to slice a bunch of bell peppers and a bunch of onions, and I'm going to dice some of the bell peppers and the onions because I've got several different recipes that use them in several different ways. Now, if you want to prepare yourself for the rest of the month too, you can chop extra onions and freeze them so they're easy to just grab right out of the freezer when you're ready to cook diced onions. So that's a little tip that will save you a ton of time for all of the times where you don't have a freezer meal to grab, or you just want to make something with diced onions. You can just, put them in a food processor if you like, and just dice them on up and freeze them just like that. So now I have everything all packaged together. I'm going to put these in the refrigerator until I'm ready to assemble everything later on. And it just kind of cuts out a lot of the work, and I'm not having to re-chop things later too. I'm also going to cook my pasta in advance, and I'm cooking this al dente, so making sure that I use about 1 or 2 minutes less of the cooking time, and I'm going to rinse it immediately and put it in the fridge for later. And I'm also going to cut up my carrots and my celery too. So everything is all prepped and ready to go in the fridge, and then I can come back to all of this later on in the day, and it makes it a lot less overwhelming. Next, I'm going to be making one of my favorite quick and easy blueberry muffin recipes. This one only takes me about 5 minutes to mix together, and then it only takes about 20 to 25 minutes to bake while I'm making other things, and it freezes beautifully, and it's just so easy. It's just 2 cups of flour, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 cup of sugar, 1 egg, 1 cup of milk, and a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. And then I just use 1 cup of either fresh or frozen blueberries. If you're using frozen, just use a little bit less than a cup to compensate for the extra liquid that you do get from using frozen blueberries. Then I just line a baking tin, but you don't need to use liners if you don't want. You can even use parchment paper. And then I just fill them about 3/4 of the way full and cook them at 400 degrees, again, for about 20 to 25 minutes. The high temp makes them rise really nicely and have that nice little crisp top that I love. So that's definitely what I recommend. You could be adding protein powder or do the oat blueberry muffin recipe if you like. You can do that instead too. So, whatever you like to do. Next, I'm making a new recipe to me. This is a baked oatmeal, and it did turn out interesting. I usually add honey now when I eat it because it just needs a little bit more sweetness. I'm going to link the recipe down below for you because I didn't make any changes. I didn't adapt it. This is just the recipe they have. And next time I think I just won't do eggs too, because the eggs was just a little bit different and not exactly what I expected from an oatmeal bake. I understand why they did it to add more protein, but I don't think it was necessary. So I'm just mixing this all up, layering it with some fresh berries and some frozen berries, and then I baked it. And once it was cooked through, I just pulled that out, let it cool a bit, and then sliced it up and froze it. And when I reheated it, I just added a little bit of honey to it, and really it was okay. It was just not my favorite. Now here's a look at those amazing blueberry muffins. And again, I just put these in a bag. You can use a reusable bag, or again, a Pyrex dish, like a glass Pyrex dish with a lid, and just reheat these in the microwave for about 1 minute, and they're ready to go. Super easy, so delicious, and you can really add any add-ins that you like. Next, I'm putting together a couple of egg bakes. And I like to make the egg bakes usually to add on top of breakfast sandwiches. So it's really easy to do that, or add them to burritos, but you can eat them on their own. They're just basically an omelet. I'm just going to put some eggs in a bowl and then add a little bit of milk. And I like to usually add some garlic powder, a little bit of salt and pepper, but that's optional. And you really don't need the milk. I just like to add it to stretch the eggs. Then I make sure I butter my dish, and I'm going to add the bacon that I crisped up already on the side and some cheese, and I'm just going to bake that just like that. Now in the meantime, I'm also going to toss those onions and peppers that I made and toss them in some oil and salt and pepper. And then the large amount of sliced onions and bell peppers I'm making for a different dish, I just seasoned that with some chili powder, some cumin, salt, pepper, whatever seasonings that you like for an enchilada. I would recommend doing for this because that's what I'm going to be using these for. I'm going to be making a black bean and fajita enchilada for those. I'm just going to put all of that in the oven and let it bake. Here is the oatmeal bake and what that looks like. And once that was cooled a little bit, I slice that up. You can make any size portions that you like for this one. And I just put that in a separate container. Now, if you don't want things to stick together, put them on a baking sheet in one single layer first, and then just freeze that for 2 hours so things don't stick together. Then put it in the bag or the container. Now, here's a look at that first egg bake, and it turned out delicious. Love that one. And next, I'm going to make the other one, again, with just the eggs, milk, salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Put that in the dish that was buttered. And then I added my cooked onions and peppers and added some cheese on top. You can add any cheese that you like to that one. Feta would be really good. Just, kind of use your imagination, whatever taste that you like. I baked that, and there you have it. Turned out really delicious, and I just portioned it. And again, you can portion it in larger portions or smaller depending on what you're going to use it for. And it just reheats beautifully for about a minute or two in the microwave or however you want to cook it. And again, you can add these to breakfast sandwiches or tortillas to make burritos or just eat them as is. Next, I'm going to continue with the enchilada prep. This time I'm adding a little bit of ground turkey that I seasoned with taco seasoning, but you could add any seasoning that you like: chili powder, cumin, cayenne, salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. Any seasonings will do for this, just whatever you like and what your family likes, that will work. Now, the ground turkey is optional. You don't need to add this at all. It's really just a way to bulk up the enchiladas, but it's definitely optional. You can make this a vegetarian enchilada dish. That's up to you. So I'm just going to mix together the peppers and onions, some black beans, and some cheese with that ground turkey, and just mix it until it's all combined. And now we're in the home stretch here for this freezer meal because now it's just time to assemble. Yay! So I've got my enchilada sauce here, and I'm just going to add maybe about a half a cup to the bottom of the pan to avoid sticking. And again, if you don't like using foil, you don't have to. You can use any container that you like for this. And then I'm just going to get my tortillas there that I do soften in the microwave for about 30 seconds just to make them easier to work with. And then put as much filling as you like in these tortillas, roll them up, and then just get them nice and squeezed in. And once that's done, you can add the rest of that filling to the top of the enchiladas, and then top it with the rest of the enchilada sauce and, of course, some cheese. I just used cheddar cheese. You can use vegan cheese. You can use any kind of cheese that your heart desires. So the sky's the limit, really, with this dish. It's really hard to mess up. Just use whatever you love. Then just be sure to wrap it in the wax paper. Again, the entire container goes in wax paper. This will help avoid the freezer burn. Then add the foil around the whole container and be sure to label with the name, the date, and the instructions. You're really going to love that you have written all of this down when you go to get this out of the freezer. Next, I'm assembling my lazy lasagna. I have shared this recipe a couple of times, not as a freezer meal, but just as a very budget-friendly lasagna dish. And we are in love with this one. I cannot get enough of this one. I could probably eat it every day. So we just mix the cottage cheese, softened cream cheese, a little bit of seasoning, and mix that on up, and then add the pasta. Once that's coated, I'm going to line the bottom of a dish with some pasta sauce, then start kind of layering, adding the pasta, some more of the pasta sauce, some Parmesan cheese, mozzarella, and then layer again with some more pasta, some more sauce, Parmesan, and mozzarella. And there you have it. It's super easy. We actually made one of these for dinner as well, and just made the other one the freezer meal because it really comes together so fast and is a really great filling meal. It's got a lot of protein in there because of the cottage cheese. And again, don't forget to wax paper and foil the outside and write the instructions and the date and all of that jazz on there, of course. So here's a look at the one that we made for dinner this evening. When you go to bake this one, just make sure that you top it nicely with your sauce, your Parmesan and all that jazz. But after that, you want to make sure that your foil is not touching the cheese. Make sure that it's got a bit of a tent over it, so that way it's not going to pull all the cheese off when you remove the foil in the second part of the cooking process. Of course, all these recipes are going to be in the description for you, so you can look at all the details. But look how delicious, nice and bubbly and cheesy. I mean, it really tastes like lasagna. It's amazing. Next, I'm putting together a really easy dump and go slow cooker meal with lentils, and we're going to add onions, celery, and carrots. And then I have some tomatoes that I pulled from the freezer. They were just whole tomatoes from my garden, and I just let them defrost for about 5 minutes, then chopped them up. You can use canned diced tomatoes though instead. Then some seasonings, and we're going to just freeze it just like this. And when it comes time to make it, we'll add all the liquid at that point. Now, on the last day of prep, I really only had a couple things left, which is great. This one I've made before. It's a sausage puff recipe, like sausage and cheddar puffs, and I just mixed together the dry ingredients, then the cheese. And I forgot that I normally use raw sausage for this. I'd already cooked it. So instead of giving up on this one and wasting it, I just added about a cup of water to make everything stick together, and it worked beautifully. I just baked these until they're cooked through, then let them cool just a little bit and add them to a bag and just freeze them just like that. Now next, I'm making a huge mess to make this chili. Just onions, a couple types of beans, some crushed tomatoes, and seasonings. Just a very basic chili, just like the chili I always make. And I'm just going to throw this in the slow cooker when it comes time. I'm just going to thaw it, the day before. It's just like a 3-bean chili with no meat in it. Very easy. I did make a huge mess, but it still turned out. So again, just going to put that in a container and freeze it. And now we're all done. Look at this beautifully stocked freezer. We have enough meals for about 2 weeks now, breakfast and dinner options. I am so happy that I made the time to do this, and I can't wait to have some more free time. I hope you enjoyed those recipes and at least got a few ideas for things to make in your home to make it a little bit faster, a little easier, and of course, easier on the wallet. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. It really helps my channel, and share this video with somebody who you know that could probably use some ideas or some tips for some recipes or something like that. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so and put that little bell on for notifications so you don't miss out every time I post something budget friendly and delicious. I'll see you next time. Bye y'all.